Welcome to Mormon. Oh, no, actually, it's not Mormon Book Reviews. This is a special bonus for the Utah Interfaith Forum and YouTube channel. So, of course, this was birthed out of a Facebook group that was started by a Latter-day Saint. And then he handed over the reins of this group to me. And we have, about 1,100 members in this group. And it's really become a really important place for conversations with interfaith. And interfaith being amongst different branches of the Restoration, and also the interfaith dialogue of the Latter-day Saints with other religions and other faiths, including Christianity, but also other religions as well. And I just want to remind everybody that we have David Boice here, who is the author of the book 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, and also the YouTube channel. Welcome back to the program, sir. And I just wanted to show you a couple things here. Remember this?
Yeah.
Yep. So we both gave a presentation at the John Whitmer Historical Association. And so we made an episode about that. But what's so interesting, we did an episode, you did an episode about it, and then you also did an episode of a trip that we took, and I'll take this out of the baggie, which is the Coming King sculpture prayer garden, which we visited. Yes. So while everybody else is going on their different tours and their tour bus ends up breaking down, we were able to go and visit this really unique sculpture garden as well. So catch those episodes that David did on his channel. But what we're going to talk about today is on this little bonus that's only on UIF, is talking about to preview your upcoming video about visiting the Orem Temple. But before we do that, you want to talk a little bit about when you were in Utah, you actually went to a cathedral in downtown Salt Lake City. Talk about your visit there, and make sure you check that episode, and then we're going to talk about your Orem Temple experience.
Yeah. So from my visit in Utah, I wanted to visit, obviously, some Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with temples, with churches, but I was also curious, okay, what else is in Salt Lake City? And one of the cathedrals that I had heard was a Cathedral of the Madeleine, which is a Catholic church, I want to say 5 blocks away from Temple Square. So I was able to visit that for a Vespers service and got to walk inside just to kind of see, okay, how do Catholics operate right in, the Vatican of Latter-day Saints, per se, whereas typically Catholics are a majority in Christianity. What happens if they're a minority in a particular city? So I got to attend a bit of that. And it wasn't a mass or anything like that, but it was a beautiful Vespers service. And I want to do a little bit more research into the history of this and to understand what the relationship has been with Salt Lake City Catholics right there with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints right, a few blocks away. So I'm going to be investigating, researching that a little bit more. So I'll have a future episode maybe in a month or so, exploring that, because it seems like there was a relationship quite a bit with President McKay. I want to say the 60s, I may be wrong on that, but then also with that Catholic bishop, and just to understand more just how those dynamics worked in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I want to recommend, have you gotten Greg Prince's book about David O. McKay yet? Because that really is that's a great resource. It really sticks out. I remember it's really fascinating, the friendship he had with the bishop there, and it was really interesting to. And on one hand, David O. McKay is making the cross a taboo because it's too Catholic, but then at the same time, he's befriending the Catholic bishop there and has a friendship with him, which is great. So folks, check out that book. That's available at anywhere you want to find it. I know you can get them on Amazon. That's a really good book. So fascinating, because of course you came from a very conservative branch of Lutheranism that was kind of judgmental of other groups. And you had mentioned in our previous episode about how judgmental you were of Catholics. Maybe talk about your evolution visiting, or remember you went and visited that relic, if you will, of a nun, I guess you would call it. Yes. That, but maybe talk a little bit about your journey with Catholicism, and then we're going to preview the Orem Temple episode that's coming out.
Yeah. Well, from my background, and I didn't even realize it because I was growing up in it, but my sub-denomination of Lutheranism, we projected that the Pope was an antichrist. From church leaders, they wouldn't really back down from that. So my understanding is there was one member who was running for a government position in Minnesota, and she had to leave the denomination because obviously you weren't going to get a Catholic vote if you were part of a church saying that the Pope was the Antichrist.
Hmm.
So, and I didn't even realize it, but like I knew enough where it's like I had this disdain towards the Catholic Church. So my very first Catholic visit, I was very judgmental, but there was something to it. There was this deeper meaning between, especially with the stained glass windows, you have this contrast of light versus dark seeping through, especially the Gothic architecture. And over time, I've gained a newer appreciation for Catholics,
Hmm.
and kind of like the anti Lehi Nephites, it's like drop your swords, because I was constantly having my sword out regarding doctrines and beliefs. And instead, what I've gained is a deeper appreciation, especially with Latin Mass,
Hmm.
because it involves all the senses. Because you're hearing, a different dialect, you're hearing a different language. So your ears are more tuned in. You have the incense, so your nose is a participant in the service. You're singing these hymns with your mouth. Your knees are down, on the kneelers to pray, and there's this spirituality to it, because at the end of the day, then you're going to get the taste at the end of the service with communion. But because I'm not a Catholic, I can't get that full sense. So there's a different type of appreciation after it took me a dozen visits for Catholic services to kind of gain a better, deeper appreciation for how they worship. Because, I'm seeing, different, one of my most popular visits was a suggestion from you, Steve. So I want to thank you for that. Was the Benedictines of the Queen of Apostles, I think it is, where you had Sister Wilhelmina, and she was deceased. She was buried in the ground for 4 years. They extract her body to move it into the chapel area, and her corpse hasn't decayed. It's incorrupt. And to see, and I didn't know anything about incorruptibility or anything like that, but to see the reverence, to see the respect, to see the awe of Catholics, even though, there's a lot of things that from a theological standpoint, I'm not on base with. I gained a newer appreciation to understand that and be a part of it.
Yeah, interesting. So you are going to be this. So most likely this will be this episode will be released on December 8th of 2023, and on December 10th, you'll be releasing your episode about your experience at the Orem Temple. So why don't you just preview that for the audience, to just tell us kind of how your experience went and what they should expect to see on your video, which I'm sure you're still working on and producing.
Yeah.
But you probably have an idea of what it's going to look like, the finished product's going to look like. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm still in the creative stage, putting that all together. The thing when I make Latter-day Saint videos is like it's so much. So my brain often is on information overload, and it's a lot of times I want to talk more about it. With my videos, I just try to keep it within about 20 minute tops. But one thing that I really took away from Orem that I appreciate, and I mentioned it in our Mormon book reviews video, was that parable of the temple being kind of the box, with the real treasure, the pearl, being Christ inside that temple. But one of the things that I took away from that visit was just some of the themes, and just how different each temple is to really represent that region and that area. So one thing that I was very surprised with is just the finer details inside. Because I guess Orem, Utah, there's a big cherry orchards in the past. So there's cherries just kind of trickled in everywhere that you see. Even the wood is like a cherry finish. And like one of the things too was the stained glass windows. because these were just jaw-dropping to see. Is like you have like the area between the Wasatch Mountains and then like a local lake. I want to say it was a Utah lake. And they incorporate that imagery into the stained glass windows to the point where you see this cherry tree in the stained glass windows, but as you go further up in the temple, it starts to bloom. And obviously outside, they're also going to have some cherry trees as well, from my understanding. And my tour guide kind of mentioned the person that designed the art with the glass designs. He could really kind of do what he wanted between, just all the different types of symbols that they were using. But there was one dragonfly that he put in one of the windows right by the baptismal font. And that dragonfly is the only one there. But it's like when the sun peeks through it, it can change color. So there's these little hidden treasures in itself inside these temples that I just kind of walked away impressed by, just from an architectural standpoint.
Well, I think that's great. And thank you for previewing this with our audience, Mr. David Boice. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And I want to thank you for helping kind of kick off my new venture, the Utah Interfaith Forum YouTube channel. And those of you who are on Facebook, if you want, just put in a request to join the group. You just type in Utah Interfaith Forum, it come right up. It's a private group, so you just got to answer a few questions, and you will be let into our group to continue the conversation. I want to thank you so much, Mr. David Boice, for coming on today. You are my friend, my colleague, and I'm just so glad that we've been able to be on this adventure together.
Appreciate it, Steve, as always.
So, folks, tell us what you think. Leave your stuff in the comments. There will be links in the descriptions to some of the stuff that we talked about. Looking forward to watching this episode this Sunday, December 10th. You're going to be able to watch David's adventures in the Orem Temple. Got a personal tour. You have been blessed by the restoration, as have I. And just remember, this is the most important thing, is remember, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews, also on the Utah Interfaith Forum. And I like to say the Utah Interfaith Forum is where we have interfaith in action. Y'all have yourself a great day.